let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the 20s. Let's talk about what the average person in their 20s does. And unfortunately, it's a sad state of affairs in this country. They're not necessarily doing the things that we would encourage them to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about spending less than you make. Well, if you just look at the research, only 40% of Americans spend less than they make. That means the majority are spending every bit of what they earn plus some. So if you can't even respect the first ingredient to wealth, which is discipline, understanding deferred gratification, how can you expect to be successful for the long term?
Not only are they doing this, not only they're living above their means, the other thing that folks in their 20s are doing, the average American, is they don't recognize, hey, I need to save a little bit because unknown things will happen. They are not prepared for emergencies. If you look at the numbers right now, according to Bankrate, 56% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings, meaning 56% of Americans, if something were to happen, if they were to have to go to the doctor, have an automobile accident, have something in their life happen that was unexpected, they could not take care of it without going into debt. That is not where you want to be.
One of the benefits I have working here for the Money Guy Show is that they keep me up on terminology. And they found out, the team told me I'm using YOLO way too much. You only live once. They're like, Brian, that is past. And I was like, okay, doing it for the gram. And they're like, Brian, nobody says it like that anymore. So I will tell you the new term that was introduced to me, and we'll see if I'm using this appropriately, is do it for the plot.
There you go.
And when I say that, what I mean is that some of these younger generations, and it's appropriate that you'll have the older guy saying this, are taking vacations that might not equal or match where they are in their financial journey.
It's wild. When you look at all the generational breakdowns, Gen Z and millennials, so these are on the younger side of the age spectrum, are the biggest spenders when it comes to vacations. They spend about $3,500 per trip. I want you to contrast that to the fact that 56% of Americans cannot come up with $1,000 if an emergency happened, and yet Gen Z and millennials are spending $3,500 on vacations. They have got something out of whack. So if you want to be a millionaire, if you want to be a financial mutant, you're not going to look this way. You're actually going to look a little bit different. Let's talk about what the millionaire mindset behaviors in your 20s look like.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that the majority fall into the consumption trap. So we do live in a society with lots of spending on advertising, lots of things that are just pounding you, and loading up your ears and eyes with all the things you should be doing. But I'm going to tell you, success is being that financial mutant, having that contrarian mindset. So here's the first thing. If you're going to start in your 20s, it doesn't have to be a lot. A little goes a long way.
Yeah, if you can live below your means, if you can choose to defer just a little bit of today for a big, more beautiful tomorrow, it gets really exciting really fast. We actually have a tool you can go look at. Go to moneyguy.com/resources, and we show you at young ages, if you can start at 20 or 25 or 30 or right before your 30s, we show you at different percentage savings rates how much of your income you'll be able to replace by the time you get to retirement, by the time you get to age 65. Well, the beautiful thing here is if you can get a really healthy savings rate early on in your 20s and you can save 25% of your gross income, what's likely going to happen for you is you're not going to have to work all the way until age 65. You're likely going to be able to give yourself options much, much earlier in life, and it does not take a lot to go a very long way.
The next thing you can do if you want to make sure that you're doing the millionaire path, especially if you're in your 20s, is you actually have an emergency fund. If you look at the financial order of operations, go to moneyguy.com/resources. Having cash reserves for emergencies is not just a step one, it's also a step four. It has 2 of the 9 steps are making sure that you have emergency money, because what I'm trying to protect you from by having emergency reserves is you don't have to make those desperate decisions where you rely upon debt or other things to kind of fill in the gaps. If you actually respect it and you have your highest deductible covered, you won't be derailed before you even get out of the gates and start building your own success story.
I love it. And then the third millionaire mindset, the third millionaire behavior that I think that you should have in your 20s is, rather than doing it for the plot today, you're doing it for the plot in the future. You are focused on the future. And so what you do so that you're not missing out today is you learn how to bedazzle your basic life. Brian, you talk about this all the time. You kind of mastered this early on, even in your 20s and 30s.
Yeah, I don't want people, because look, I'm not telling you to put your head down and be a miser and don't enjoy your 20s, don't enjoy your 30s while you're on this journey to building wealth. I'm just telling you might need to do it a little differently. We call it the bedazzled basic life, is that still go on trips.
Yep.
Go do things to create memories, but they don't have to be so expensive. There's nothing wrong with a good road trip. There's nothing wrong. And I even think about, I went to Europe before we had children, but I did it in a way that was 20 to 30% cheaper. I mean, or 70% cheaper. It was on a budget of a quarter of what most people go to Europe on, but we stayed in cruddy hotels.
Yep.
We were dragging our luggage down cobblestone streets. We were getting ripped off by the locals in about every city we went into, but that's okay. Because here's the good news about memories. Take it from somebody who's a little bit older. Memories blossom over time. The things that give you stress or maybe weren't so great in the moment, over time, they become better. You drop off the negative stuff, and some of that stuff becomes the funny little anecdotes of your stories. Just go out there, make memories, enjoy each decade of your life, but just also be respectful that it doesn't derail your great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
So let's talk about the math. Let's talk about the actual brass tacks. Check this out. If you are a 20-year-old and you want to be a millionaire by the time that you get to age 65, you only have to save $95 a month.
That's right.
That's it, less than $100 a month. If you're a 25-year-old and you want to get to millionaire status, you only have to save $184 a month. And if you're a 29-year-old and you're just starting out at zero and you want to get to millionaire status, you only have to save about $300 a month. But we've already told you time can be so valuable. What's amazing is that if you save throughout your 20s and you get to age 29, and you have saved up in your 20s $38,200, do you realize you have already done enough hard work that without saving another dollar, that lump sum, that $38,000 has the ability to turn into $1 million by the time that you get to age 65. So in your 20s, it does not take a lot. It just takes a little bit of discipline and a lot of time to do some pretty amazing things.
Yeah, a lot of you are probably watching this going, hey, wait a minute, I'm 23, I'm 27. What are my numbers? I would encourage you to go to moneyguy.com/resources. And you can actually download our free copy of Are You on Track to Be a Millionaire to see exactly where you need to be.